Okay, let's start our first lecture. The first lecture, we talk about the living organisms, what they are made of, and then we will go to homeostasis. Okay, so let's start from the level of organization. All living things, they are made of small molecules, and I call these Legos. You use Legos. And we have the tiniest one. We will go into detail later. You use those tiniest Lego to build up a bigger building block, like use atom to make cells. And then cells become your Lego. You use the cells to build up a bigger molecule called tissue. And now these tissues are your building block again. And use tissues to make up organ, and then you use organs to make up organ system, and eventually you put all the organ systems together to become you. So that's living organisms made of. And everything on our planet are made of matter. So let's look at what's matter. Matter is everything have a mass and they take up space. So that's called matter. And they have three states: solid state, liquid state, and gas state. The smallest units of matter, they are called atoms. Atoms. And atom is smallest undividable molecule. And we will go into detail in our next lecture about what's inside of the atom. And elements, they are substance made of only one type of atom. You can use more than one type, but they are not called elements. So we define elements. They are made of one kind of atom. Like this one is called carbon. And carbon are only made of carbon elements. And we will go into detail in the next two lectures. What's this called? Isotope. But all of this, they are called carbon because they're made of the same carbon atom. And on the periodic table, we have different kind of elements. So each one of them is made of one kind of atom. Okay, now let's look at the human body, living matter. Actually, not just human, all living matter. So if we take you or your dog, your cat, throw into a machine, the machine analyze to identify, okay, what are those Legos, most common Legos? I call them Legos. Most common found in your body, in living matters, including four. You need to know these four. First one is carbon. Second one is hydrogen. The third one is oxygen. And the last one is nitrogen. So totally you have four of them. 96% come from these four. And then later we will add another four. So totally about 99% come from eight. But the most common four are these four: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And when you put atoms together, you start to have molecules. Like this is the DNA molecule. We will go into detail. You find a lot of same color Lego because most of them come from the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. So this is one of the biomolecules we will talk about in detail in human body. So when you put atoms together, you start to have molecule. And molecules are made of one or more atoms. These three are the other three important biomolecules, like carbohydrate. Sometimes people call it carb. So when you eat carb, you eat carbohydrate. Like you eat pasta, bread, they're carbohydrate. Protein, you have animal protein, you have plant protein. Lipids, Lipids is the one give us the energy source or store energy. There's a lipid. And when you look at them, you find a lot of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygens, because there are 96% of them come from these four. So in your body, if you look at the molecules, 60% of your body molecules is water. So if you weigh 100 kilogram, multiply 60%, 60 kilogram is water. So your body 60% is water. And these four are called biomolecules. And the previous two slides, we talk about these two: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. Nucleic acids include DNA and RNA. And we will go into detail to talk about these four. So molecules made of your body, these five. And atoms, these four, 96%. Okay, let's keep going. Molecules interact to make up organelle. So you use atoms to make up molecules, and now you have molecules, more than one kind of atom together. You put them together, become organelles. So what's organelles? Organelles, you find this word is very similar to organ. Organs are those structures inside your body. But organelles, they are structures inside the cell. And they serve the same function as organ of your body. So each organelle have their own function. And they call it organelle. They could not call it organ because the word organ been taken already. So they call it organelle. So very similar to organ in your body. Organelles, each one of them serve different functions inside the cell. If you think the cell is you, and these organelles are like the organs. And we will go into details of each one of them, what's their basic function, like mitochondria. This one produce ATP, that's the energy source. And you have the ribosome. Ribosome help to produce protein. So we will go into detail of each one of them. Okay, so now you have organelles. You put organelles together, you have cells. You have cells. So it's like a Lego. You have small Lego, you build up, become a bigger one. Now you have cells. And why cells are important? Because they're the basic unit of structure of all living things. And sometimes you see the word called functional unit. Functional unit. So these words means there's the smallest structure and still have the function of you. So if I ask, what's your functional unit? And that's cells. So each cells are small you, tiny you. They have the same function as you. They eat, they use energy, and they respond to outside stimulus. So cells are the basic units of, or functional units of all living things. And some living organisms, if they're made of one kind of cell, it's called unicellular. Unicellular, like E. coli, and these bacteria, they're made of one cell. And you can put a lot of cells together. It's called multicellular living organisms. Okay, now let's keep building up. When you put cells together, we say cells are the functional unit. And when you put cells together, you start to have tissues. You start to have tissues. And when you take AP1, AP2, because you take this class to prepare for the pre-AP test. And when you go to the AP1, AP2, you're going to learn the human body. You find each organ, they are made of more than one kind of tissues. So what are tissues? Tissues are made of a lot of cells. A lot of cells together, you have tissues. You find we're gradually building up. So you put a lot of cells together, you have tissues, and we have different kind of tissues. And when you take AP1, we'll go into detail. What are those tissues? Like this one called the simple squamous epithelium tissue. And you will learn it later in AP1. and this is called the simple cuboidal epithelium tissues. All these are tissues, a lot of cells together. Each one of them is a cell. And this is called the pseudo-stratified columnar epithelium tissue. So all these are made of a lot of cells. So now you have tissues. And then you put tissues together, you can create organs like the heart. Each organ are made of more than one kind of tissue. So your heart, you have nervous tissue, you have muscle tissue. So now you have organs. And then you put organs together, you start to have organ system. Organ system. When you learn AP1 and AP2, the most important thing is to learn those 11 different organ systems. So we divide them into two classes, AP1 and AP2. So we will start with from the epitheliums, that's the skin tissues, and gradually go to each one of them. And in this class, our last lecture, we will briefly talk about those organ systems and each one of their function. And in AP1 and AP2, we have 2 semesters to go into detail, talk about those organ systems. Each one have their functions. And each one will take more than one class to cover them. So now you have organ systems. And when you put organ systems together, you start to have organism. Like all these are organisms. They are made of different organ systems. So it's like a building Lego. We start from the smallest one. We have atom, and we put them together, become molecules, and we put them together. You have the organelle, you have organ. You have organelle, you have cells, and then use cells to build up tissue, and use tissues to build up organ. You use organs to build up organ system, and eventually you use the organ system to build up you, living organism.